our show today. It's such an honor. I actually was fortunate enough to take a class within your studio, and that's kind of one of the ways that I've met you. Other one
Hmm.
is our mutual friend. But you're such a fascinating person that I just had to get you on this show.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I'm so excited to chat with you as well. Like Tam has already told me a lot about you and your story, and just I think we have a lot to talk about today.
yes.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
first, tell us about how you became Neon Robin.
Okay, so my story is a long one, but I think a lot of people can relate to it. So I was fully on the corporate track, global branding at some of the biggest firms in town, and being recruited and really climbing the ladder. And then COVID changed everything. So 4 years ago, I was creative director at Merritt's in Fenton, the global events, which
Mhm.
obviously was impacted by COVID. And my mom lived in Wisconsin, still does, but her drawing class was canceled. And I was like, well, what time was it supposed to be? Let's do it virtually. And so we started drawing during my lunch break. The writing was kind of on the wall at Merritt's. They ended up letting go of over 2,000 people and
Wow.
closing all the offices other than Fenton. So by the end of the summer 2020, our 25-person team was let go.
Wow.
And I had another job lined up literally the next day, could have, signed the deal. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep drawing with my mom.
Oh,
So
good for you.
big pivot. We were going through some major family stuff at the time, helping them move and downsize in the most astronomical way. And I was leading the charge from St. Louis. And I credit drawing to allowing us to get them to a better place. And I credit that for leading me to managing the art studio and now bringing art back in my life in a way that I always planned on making time for. So yeah, that is what led me here. I run the studio at Bowood Farms in the Central West End. So we do art, plant, and we call them lifestyle classes. My specific classes that I offer are drawing and sketching illustration classes that actually are a little bit different than your typical art class because I am not going to show you exactly what to do. I'm helping you get out of your own head about creating and this idea of
We can
perfectionism.
all use that.
So
Yes. We
took
talk
me 4 years to get to this place. So you guys are timing it right.
Congratulations. That's amazing. Yeah, we talk about that a lot and how we are both perfectionists, type A type of people, and it's very difficult for us to tap into our creative side. So
Mhm.
we need
I'm
more
just
people like
afraid to
you.
try things and
Yes,
fail at them, and that's
definitely.
okay. Like
Hmm.
enjoy the process.
Hmm.
So.
Yeah. So before your corporate career, were you always an artist, kind of on the side, or just something you were interested in?
Oh yeah, so I, drew, colored all the things when I was little. Went to University of Wisconsin Madison, got my fine arts degree, and then graphic design is the way that you can be an artist and still make money. So,
Right.
um, just got on that bandwagon. I literally took my first full-time job in Chicago thinking I will do this because it's at a smaller family business.
Hmm.
Not actually, it was a global business too, but um, and because it will allow me to paint on the side. And
Oh yeah.
I can tell you guys, like I probably made 1 to 2 paintings in like 5 years of working for them. So yeah, I've always like, oh, I'll do that at some point. And it wasn't until the world changed that it like forced me to be like, no, you really want to do this. So like just start doing it and keep doing it and see what happens. So
That's so
It's
interesting.
incredible.
We talk all the time
Hmm.
about how like just we thought it was a very personal struggle of just
Mhm.
not being able to find time to
Mhm.
do creative
Mhm.
or a hobby time,
Mhm.
self-care time. But yet here you have somebody who like has kind of naturally always been in the artist creative world, that even when you were trying to get careers in that line, still couldn't find time to.
Well, then recognizing that you only have so much energy to give, right? So,
Yeah.
like, if
Yeah.
I'm working 60-hour weeks in a creative career, like, then going home and being creative is probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, that was a big wake up call. And I mean, I had fully burnt out
Yeah.
on the design corporate life and needed to pause and then, feel very privileged and had the opportunity to do so because I am married and my husband could, let me pursue art. Or I forced him to let me pursue art. Let's say it the right way.
I mean, it
But
definitely for no matter what you're doing, support is that we've found is what you need, right?
Okay,
To pursue.
and those were
Yeah.
really hard
Mhm.
conversations
Yeah.
too. And then sticking with my guns. So I launched, my brand was Neon Robin, in order to have a container for all of the art that I do. And that's mostly illustration based. I make calendars and coloring books. And then I did weekly coloring calls
Oh, wow.
with my network because most of them were not local. I am from Wisconsin, lived in Chicago, lived in Madison. My friends are all over the
What
country.
what is a coloring call?
Oh, so I might revisit this idea. But basically, I once a month, the first Monday of the month, I would send out a link and just have everybody log in and we would color together.
I
Oh,
love that.
wow.
Most of the friends have kids, so it was just like providing a container for them to
Yeah.
create alongside their children. And then I've realized anytime you do that, it immediately eliminates your inhibitions. So, like, drawing with my niece is the most freedom you can imagine because she doesn't care. She's just drawing. And
Right.
it's like what we
Good
used
point.
to
Yeah.
feel when we were drawing, or sketching, versus I got to a place of like, okay, this drawing has to be the best thing it's ever been and will be on a billboard, whatever. And that's
Yeah.
no, this can just be one little drawing that I'm doing on a Monday evening with my friends. So
Feels really
uh,
good to hear you, who I would consider like a professional in the realm, even saying that even you sometimes can kind of get in your own way of
oh,
Mhm.
like a creative
constantly.
process.
Mhm.
Because I was beating myself up thinking that it was
Mhm.
just something that like, because I'm a mom and I don't have any creative ability, but maybe it's not that maybe I'm just normal.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely normal. I'm very well aware I can draw. I've like honed that skill.
Yeah.
I can paint pretty much anything you like side by side if you put a picture in front of me. And yet really, really struggled to call myself an artist
Hmm.
when I first made this pivot. I
Wow.
literally remember like switching that toggle on
Yeah.
Instagram from entrepreneur to artist, or I don't even know if I
Mhm.
still did.
Yeah.
But um and then I talked to one of my mentors who worked for Martha Stewart. She was just here teaching a class last week. And Martha Stewart, Mary Engelbright, amazing artist, same deal. She's like, oh, I just call myself an illustrator. And I'm like, no,
Oh,
you're an artist. We're
Yeah.
all artists. If you
that's
make art,
Yeah.
you're an artist. So
Why
how
is
do
it
we
so hard for us
reclaim
to?
that word?
Yes.
is it like an imposter syndrome, you
Mhm.
think, that's just happening
Absolutely.
among everybody?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And then there's so much like I think ideas or concepts about like the starving artist,
Yeah.
and so I
Mhm.
can't I'm not that person. I can't sit down and just doodle freely. Like that's not something I'm capable of learning. It's then I was like, well, then I'm not a real artist if I'm
Wow.
not somebody who can just like crank things out on a regular basis. But
It's
if
almost
you
like
like,
you're gatekeeping yourself.
oh, completely,
Yeah.
completely.
I don't know.
And we all do. So
Yeah.
like that's what the
Yeah.
fascinating thing in every class I teach. I would say half the class is really stuck
Yeah.
on
Mhm.
not having fun, not enjoying themselves,
Mhm.
some version of perfectionism, but also just like getting in your own way.
Yeah.
And so my classes specifically set up exercises to try and break those. Like,
I love that. We definitely have to come do one of your classes because
Yes, give me an
yes,
exercise.
we are, I feel like us doing this and hobbies and just trying new things is just trying to get over that barrier, exactly what you're talking about. And I think it's each time it gets a tiny bit easier, to put yourself out there. But gosh, it is such a roadblock.
Yeah, I
yeah.
would definitely need to know what some of your exercises. Like, can you give me an example of one of the exercises that you do?
So the main class I do, I bring my pile of blank sketchbooks to just reiterate how intimidating a blank page can be. We all deal with that. And, friends would keep gifting me sketchbooks, like thinking they were helping, but actually now you're just like giving me another thing that I need to do and fill, whatever. Not intentionally, but that's
Sure. I
how
would
it manifests itself.
Yeah.
And so I set those up in the front of the room, and then we do 3 exercises. I have a quote from Arthur Ashe, who's the first Black African-American male tennis player. It's called Start Where You Are, Use What You Have, and Do What You Can. And so basically I just say, start where you are, find something in this room to draw.
Wow.
And I don't give any guidance. And it really throws people
I was gonna say,
I'm sweating over here.
no, exactly.
I'm
And
like, no.
and then we do one use what you can is draw something on your person. So all of us have phones. You have ample inspiration in your pocket at any given time, but you can also just draw your shoe or draw your ring or necklace. But the idea is just to start and move the pencil on the paper. And then the last one, survey or do what you can, use what you have, is just reminding yourself like where you are in your journey of learning. So I've had students, this is the first time I've ever picked up a pencil and had a sketchbook. Okay, well, then you really need to be kind to yourself and realize like this is a skill that I don't show you what I'm doing because I've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it frequently for the last 4 years, like every week, so you can't compare yourself to me. And then recognizing that there are harder and easier things to draw. So flowers, which is why Bowood is such a magical place to have these classes. Flowers are the easiest thing to draw, in my opinion, because flowers are actually inherently imperfect. And if you ever look at them, they are not symmetrical. They, can bend and go crazy. So that's where I tell people, start there. Don't pull out a picture of your first grandchild and expect to nail it on the first effort, because that's probably one of the hardest things to draw is somebody a pet that you're familiar with. But if you draw something that you're unfamiliar with, you will relax a little bit. So.
Oh, that's such great advice.
I never thought flowers would be like the easiest theoretically to draw. And it's actually almost kind of like I'm sitting here listening to it, and our podcast cover actually has a daisy on it. And I'm almost thinking, I want to go back and I want to make the petals a little messier. Like, I don't think I want to. Like, that would be like a call to like what Robin's suggesting here is just kind of
make it less perfect.
Well, so like we offer our main classes. I think, is this what you took, Tamara? Is the watercolor?
I did.
Yeah. So watercolor is probably one of the most challenging, mediums. And it also comes with this expectation of like, it looks easy. It seems it's inherently imperfect because of the style. If you can manage to do it, you need the confidence to do it. But if like yesterday's class was a bird. Birds have very specific shape. We're so familiar with seeing birds that you would have to get that shape pretty accurate for you to feel confident that like, oh, that's exactly what I was going for. Yeah. But a flower, there's so many of them. They can bend and be in different directions that the flower classes are actually way easier.
That's interesting. I've never really considered that.
People
But
even realize that. Yeah.
when I think about like when I was a little girl doodling, I feel like it was always doodling little flowers for sure.
No,
I don't
exactly.
know. Yeah.
I'm gonna rethink flowers in my life now.
Speaking of birds, let's talk a little bit about Neon Robin because I think that we both dived into some of your website and your blog and then your
Incredible.
Instagram account and
Inspiring.
yeah,
I'm trying to think of all the words.
we
I
love like your brand and all of your work is beautiful. And I would love to hear a little more about where that came from, the idea of that, but then also like I saw a little parts where you put like bird stories and bird therapy, and I thought that was so cute.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, my background is branding, so I obviously know
Yes, that helps.
how to do that very well. It actually kind of somewhat gets in the way sometimes because I hate selling. I would rather just tell stories. But yeah, I started my blog again, COVID lockdown. I was like, I've been thinking about doing this for years. The impetus for that is actually on another website that I haven't fully migrated over. So my story starts with my uncle got in a car accident driving home from my third birthday party. Was paralyzed from the waist down and created an oasis for himself that I grew up going to, and it was a garden. So he passed away in 2018. Wow, gosh, that's wild. And we inherited his property and the house, and so I spearheaded renovating the house so we could move my parents there as our way of getting them into kind of the next chapter of their lives. So my main goal was documenting that whole process. What ended up happening is that it unearthed a lot within me, and I think was why I struggled so much to just be creative and have that confidence. Was at the end of the day, a 3-year-old, had this huge tragic thing happen on her birthday. And so I started, this long core belief of, it's my fault that my uncle would not have been in an accident had I not been born. And the deep depression and issues with that is all what came out in my blogging, completely unanticipated. But maybe a little bit. I knew that was going to happen. So yeah, I actually came up. Neon Robin was like, I know that I give off this effervescent, bright vibe, and I fully accept that. That's who I am. But on the other side of things, I was not feeling that way deep down. So I wanted to create a logo that actually was disjointed. And what I'm doing is trying to move towards that fully expressed bright side of me and be a genuine version of that. So pursuing art has been the biggest piece of that. Luckily, brought my mom on the journey. I did 2 art shows. The first one was in Green Bay with her drawings alongside of my own in order to launch my brand. And that was incredible and hard and all the things. And then I did one in St. Louis here. A friend offered her space down in Benton Park. And after that, then I started doing prints and things through my website. I've done a couple of digital auctions where I will throw up, again, all like recent works in order to sell them, mostly because I just do not like sitting in a booth, and like it's really hard for me to watch people come and critique, and like I have this idea that everybody's gonna love what you do, and that's just not true. So I'm still like working up the confidence to do that and do a show and bring my art to the studio artist sale we do on every November. So that'll be coming up. But otherwise, I'm not big on selling. I'm way more interested in experiences at this point. So that's why I'm at the studio and helping others create so I can continue to reinforce all the things that I've learned through this process. So that's where we're
One,
at.
that's incredibly inspiring.
Incredible.
And like you are so brave. Like I hope you feel like you were
So
just
intense.
Oh God, the vulnerability hangovers are real big.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to feel that almost every time.
definitely. It's so true. Definitely. But it feels good, right? It's like
Yes. Well, as
Wow.
soon as you have somebody, just like you just said, that resonates and it opens up a deeper conversation, that's what I'm here for. So
But it's so interesting that you're just so clever. Like because I was trying on my own before with this interview, trying to figure out if I could understand the Neon Rabbit, right? Like I was trying to get in the mind and it did not get where you came from with it. And like the creativity and the vulnerability and the honesty that phrase Neon Robin has. Like I feel like I'm about to cry. I'm emotional because it's like it's incredible to have connected with somebody like you who can just be open about that and then not be open, but then create a brand that you're going to put out there, already you're putting out there, and you're just doing it so authentically. And we talk often about how the thing that really resonates with us is authenticity. And I'm inspired by you, Robin. Like I really am just
that's
so
what I'm going
inspired
for.
by you right now to keep going. Like right?
Yeah.
Like you got to step in because I'm still a
No, I love it.
Just like
I think the biggest, so if you want to get like super real, so yeah, I, class president, like all the things way back in Susie High School, and yet like totally dealing with depression. I didn't even realize like that I was having anxiety attacks and panic attacks until we signed the contract to renovate my uncle's house, which was like $75,000 commitment. And I literally had a back spasm that knocked me on my ass like the next 2 days or something. And I blamed yoga. Is the yoga. The yoga set me over the edge. It wasn't that I'm making this huge financial commitment
Have
to
all this
like
on
try
your
and
shoulders
solve
and
the
burden.
greatest problem of my family. It was because I was trying to do a handstand. Like actually probably the yoga is the only thing that like kept me sane until that point. And then so that was the beginning of like, oh shit, like something's not right here. And then everybody you talk to, like especially Instagram and artists, like yes, there's so much beauty and everything can be beautiful, but like where we actually learn is in the mistakes and in the experiments and in the trying and in the vulnerability. And if we don't talk about those things, you're not doing the positives justice because you need that.
We were just talking about this earlier today. Like, yes, and showing more failures online and just being more real. I think that's so important.
It's not all great.
Do you find through all that you've been through that you feel like you're a little more at peace now and, feeling more authentic in your life?
Yeah. So actually, so just give it all. We moved my parents right when this job opened up. So getting them out of my childhood home was a really, really, really massive effort and a big deal. And that happened last June. We got an offer on their house. We knew that we would, but it took 5 years of concerted effort to like pack them up and get them to move. So that was a huge relief for everybody in my family. They're on a single level. They're next door to my sister. It's just been a game changer. And then stepping into this role and kind of owning this space has also grounded me in my work. So now I have a place to go. I have an outlet. I'm obviously an extrovert in a lot of ways. So feeding off of other people's energy and surrounding myself with artists has been a really empowering, beautiful thing. So that was a huge learning for me too, because I kind of continually beat myself up like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? I love doing this. Why can't I do it on my own? But like, it's not as fun. I want to be around other people.
Yeah.
And accepting that about myself, I would rather go to a yoga class with other people than practice yoga in the basement.
Right.
So like, why would I think art needs to be any different, you know?
Good
Or
job.
just hobbies in general. Yeah, I would rather go for a hike with friends than by myself. I mean, there's like value obviously in that alone time and self-care and solo dates and doing all the things, but recognizing who you are and what you need and just not being afraid to ask for it.
Absolutely. And I think that like self-care can be so many things to anybody. Like if you are an extrovert and that can be your self-care, right? It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. And realizing like, oh, that's why COVID really sucked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
much. Like, throwing a mask over my smile was a really big deal because now I've lost part of my sparkle, you know, or whatever. So being in person. So that's why like doing the coloring calls was amazing. But I was missing that, in-person interaction, giving hugs, and being there and, seeing people's reaction like to what you're saying is also very powerful. So there's a place for all of it. So
I think you're in a really great place in your life. And that, I mean, just listening to your intuition, that's jealous of that. Like, that's so amazing.
Really,
it is a hobby in and of itself, guys.
Oh,
like learning that skill.
true. Come full circle here. It's so true. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I don't know. We didn't even dive into some of your other hobbies, but
I know, right?
Yeah.
like you have so many good things to say.
Yeah, we listed so many of them in our beginning of our intro because, like, you also noted that you do journaling and blogging, you do decluttering and organizing, reading, hiking. You've got a lot going on. Like, is there anyone that's like the stepsister that you don't pay attention to enough and you want to come find more attention to, or?
So I'm going to be emphatic about the decluttering and organizing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I want to hear a little bit about that.
Something that I had to learn as a skill. I would say that anybody who came to our house wouldn't have thought that, but I started feeling anxious about what we were accumulating. We had the room for it in our basement, but like we weren't using so much of it. So I joined like a year-long program with a dedicated effort to declutter our home. And it was with the KonMari method and a bunch of support from other women, and transformational because, and like going back to like this, the pile of sketchbooks, like you don't realize like the mental burden that stuff can have on you. And a big part of that too is my husband lost his mom like 13 years ago, and we had a lot of her things that moved with us back then and up to Madison and back to St. Louis that we hadn't actually even like looked at or untouched. Yeah. So we got him involved and we went through those things, and just realizing that you don't need to hold on to things that aren't going to take you into the future was a really big deal. And making a dedicated effort to just streamline what we had in our home was very, very big part of my story as well. So really thinking of it as a hobby that like, create the time again and make the effort because it's hard, but worth it. And like, if you have kids, like getting them involved and making it part of your routine, that it's just things, and they can come and go into your life and focusing on what matters. So
it frees up a lot of your mental space, right? And mental load, and then probably your actual physical time of like just cleaning and picking up after things, right?
Yeah. One of the biggest things, so I read a lot, but I was in a book club and I kind of had this realization that I was prioritizing like all of these books that my friends wanted to read over like the stack of books and the, bookshelf that I had that I never got to. So I actually quit the book club and started reading my own books, and stopped buying books until I got through the books that I was wanting to read and planned to read years ago. But just like recognizing those choices as something really important to just the awareness around all of that and the things
That's
and
key.
the,
Yeah, that
Definitely.
self-awareness, that self-check,
Yep.
self-reflection. I
Yeah.
feel like we can get so busy in like the corporate America, just
Mhm.
keep going and never really stopping to look into seeing like what's helping us or what's
Mhm.
building us as people. So
Mhm.
you're right. It's just stopping and reflecting.
Mhm.
yeah.
But I think it comes back to what you said at the beginning of like, I feel this probably weekly is like by the end of my work week, I almost feel like I have nothing left to give the rest of my life and like my kids or my, home life and just clearing out all that clutter that just, I can imagine that just gives you a little more
Kind of freedom,
time and
yeah.
freedom. Yeah.
home space you just don't even realize what it's doing to you until it's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
So like the studio here, to bring it back, first thing I did was like start cleaning out the basement. We did a supply sale for all the classes that we were no longer going to be offering. We got rid of maybe like half of the stuff in the basement, and then organizing all of the art supplies on the main floor to make it just feel better. Just like if you know where things are, you know where you can find them. That's one less thing to think about. We have too
How
much.
do you, I would like, so this is something that I actually am very interested in. And how do you, like, I always get overwhelmed by just the actual effort, the work. Like, it just seems like it would be exhausting to just start that process. It's like, how do you get over that hump of just that?
Just do it.
Okay. So just like anything else,
That makes sense.
the main thing I would recommend is picking a day of the week
Mhm.
that you do it. So dedicating. So like if you were going to sign up for a class,
Mhm.
you knew that was going to happen. So like put it on your calendar, make a like Sunday evenings, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this 5 minutes and set a timer.
Okay.
And if you do that, I guarantee you're going to do more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's good advice.
But even if you just do 5 minutes, that's enough.
Yeah,
You did
something.
a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
And you chipped away. Play awesome music while you do it. Do dance a little.
Brilliant.
Make it fun. Otherwise, you're not going to want to do it again. So those are like some of the main things. Also, what was wild is we would do monthly calls where you're just literally like on a
Accountability.
phone. Yeah. And so I'm not even really talking to you. I'm in my closet, like choosing which shoes to get rid of. But the fact that I know that you're doing this at the same time, and this is probably hard for you, it's hard for me. And, but yeah, the accountability of like, oh, we got that done. And so
that's good too. Yeah. I
we
have
think
like all our kids stuff. My kids are 3 and 5, but like all the baby stuff still. And I'm just like overwhelmed to get rid of it. So I need to take this tip to just start like,
what kind of song could you put on that would like inspire you to like,
I don't know,
get rid of baby stuff? Something heavy metal. I feel is probably
hardcore. Yeah.
Well, there's so much sentimentality. So a big piece of that too is, creating a bin of like just having play. So I'm ready to get rid of this. I'm not ready to get rid of this, but I'm putting it in this bin with the intention of revisiting it in 6 months.
Yeah, that's good.
Maybe by then I'll be ready. Or, it's okay. Like keep some of the items, but just being intentional about the process and then using actual containers. So that's why like we have dressers, you have a closet, you literally have a limited space, and honoring that. And when it gets to be bursting, just recognizing, oh, there's too much in this space.
Don't put bins in the storage container. In the storage room.
Yeah. Never even thought about my dresser that way.
Yeah, that is a really good tip too. Because I have like storage bins of extra clothes in my closet that I never really go in. Yeah. I'm just like, so I love it. You've inspired.
Well, and get it out of your immediate life.
Yes.
So like out of your main closet. If you're not wearing it, it shouldn't be in your main closet. If
Yeah.
you're not using it in your on your desk, it shouldn't be on your desk. Like that type of stuff.
Right.
So.
Oh my
Ah.
God. Robin, you've been
Yeah.
so inspiring today.
Let's do all the things. Let's make it all happen.
It's wonderful. I love it.
Honor like having you on our show. I really appreciate you taking the time and again just being I feel like we got a really authentic raw
I agree. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and
Every time.
I love
Every time.
you. Is there anything that you want to promote before we let you go for the day?
Yeah, I did a little facelift of my website, Neon Robin, not too much. I will have new stuff coming out, and I do a calendar every year for me, like that planning, and they are designed so you color them, ideally with your kids if you have them. So I will most likely restart the coloring calls at the beginning of the year to start filling in those calendars. And yeah, otherwise find me at bowoodfarms.com and come to the studio and take a class and try something new and don't beat yourself up about it. So
Love that. Well, we'll make
that's
sure
great.
to put those links up on our podcast episode and on our socials
Yeah.
as well.
And at some point, we're going to get in there and take a class with you for sure.
Yeah.
yay. Yes, we will have fun. That's the main goal. That's literally it.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you.
So that's pretty much our